let's give a warm welcome to PwC.
Thanks, appreciate it. Good evening, everybody. I'm Dennis Curtis. I'm a partner with PricewaterhouseCoopers based in Detroit. I've been in Detroit for the last 6 years. I'll tell you a little bit about me here in a second. So this is my first time actually on campus at CMU. I went to the University of Missouri, started my career in St. Louis, and have made several jumps along the way. All with the tie to SAP actually. So I actually took SAP back in school at Missouri a couple of years ago. And it's really helped me through my whole career. So really excited to be here and talk to you all about our experiences, what we're doing with SAP, and how SAP can be a good launchpad for your career as well. Before we get into that, we're going to do some quick introductions, go around, let's just see our team and who we're hearing from tonight. So let's see what kicks off.
Sure. I'm Alexis Chapman. I graduated from Central last December, and I was actually in your guys' seats last year at this meeting. And so I've been with the firm now for about 9 months, and I work on the Enterprise Systems Risk and Controls team, working on the SAP team.
Patricia DeJulie, I'm a director in our power and utilities practice, work with Dennis a lot. So I specialize in our utilities industry, and most of my clients are SAP. I started with PwC in 2002 in our tax practice in Indianapolis, did that part-time, while at the same time doing school full-time. When I joined Risk Assurance, I moved over to Cleveland and did that for a little bit, met a boy while I was in Cleveland, and now we live in Detroit. We did the long distance thing for about a year and a half. Really excited to be here. This is my second time doing the student user group presentation. So last year was really great, lots of enthusiasm, lots of good questions, lots of interaction. So we hope to keep up that energy this year. So,
hi, I'm Michelle. Yeah, started PwC July from the risk assurance line. Okay.
Introduce yourself.
So yeah, so I started with the firm in July. So I've been here for about 2 months. I knew I wanted to do PwC from the AP meeting about 3 years ago.
I feel like
That's what she told you during the interview.
I'm an accounting major and IS major. And I went to Central. I got my third time certification this summer. I graduated. There's me.
My name is Marty. I graduated here in May and started with the firm in August, so I'm brand new. I've been there about a month and a half now, and I work with Alexis in our enterprise systems practice folks in SAP.
And we also have two folks in the audience that have actually just recently interned with us, both Nick and Blake.
Sure, I'm Nick. Like Dan said, I just interned this past summer at PwC, and ended up getting accepted that offer, so cool stuff, yeah. I'm a senior here, got 1 more year finishing it out, and yeah, information systems administration. What? So my name is sorry. She said I had to tell her. She's my buddy. You guys buddies.
We'll explain buddy.
They'll probably explain.
My buddy's not here, but my name's Blake. I'm an accounting major. This summer I interned with PwC in the risk assurance practice, and I'm going back next year in core assurance practice. I actually worked with Dennis quite a bit this summer. No one else there. I saw Michelle. Yeah, I'm a junior information systems manager. I took time this past summer.
Great. As I said, I'm Dennis Curtis. I made partner last July with the firm, so I've actually been with the firm for 16 years. I started my career in St. Louis. I started on Anheuser-Busch, Ralston, Purina, Energizer, the battery company, and Sara Lee. So I had beer, bread, batteries, and some dog food. It's kind of my question. But they all ran SAP, and so from my first day
How can you ever leave beer?
So leaving college, so literally over the first 3 years, I went to every brewery, theme park, packaging plant that they had personal tours by all the brewmasters out there. They used to run SAP decentralized at every single plant. So we had to audit all those systems. So it was a really rough job to go to every single brewery.
Anheuser-Busch is past people.
Oh yeah.
We visit to Monsanto and then also with Anheuser-Busch.
Yeah, it's come along. So that was back in the 3.1 HI era, so it's been a while, old platforms ago, but so started my career there. My wife actually graduated from Missouri. She was a journalism major and wanted to get to a bigger media market than St. Louis, and so what we did is there was an opportunity to move to Washington, D.C. So they had just started our Washington federal practice, which meant we took a big chunk of our commercial practice and moved them to be federal working and federal facing. So they had a big void in SAP. So I literally used my experience for my first 3 years working on SAP with those clients in St. Louis to go out there and work on SAP clients. So I started working on Discovery Communications, which is Discovery Channel, Food Channel, Travel Network. AOL Time Warner ran some SAP, and a couple other entertainment media companies, XM Satellite Radio, if you've heard of that, a couple of publishing companies. About a year after that, I switched over and got into power and utilities, and so worked with all the big utilities out in DC and Baltimore and those areas that all ran SAP. So kind of used that to parlay over. All that work was actually staffed out of our Philadelphia office. So I went to the partners and said, I can do this. And so I started our utility practice in Washington. I also took up a multinational chemical company as well. So those of you who know anything about Sarbanes-Oxley and Enron and all the benefits that happened, that all went down when I was in DC. And so we had to do federal requirements to get that compliant. And so where we used to test SAP and make sure that data was reliable, we took that to a whole other level and actually helped write the firm's standards for that based in our Washington office. That was a pretty exciting thing, as well as traveling with my chemical company around the world to apply SOX in their decentralized environment. So after doing that for about 4 years, the partners in St. Louis recorded me back to Kansas City to start a risk assurance practice out there. And so we started with about 3 people and grew to about 24 over the next 4 years. In the meantime, my power and utility mafia wouldn't let me leave, so I spent half my time in Houston working on energy companies that ran SAP down there. Worked with a small company called ExxonMobil and a couple other SAP clients, and so it was pretty exciting. After that, basically, the utility mafia pulled me up here, as I'll call it. So CMS Energy was looking to switch auditors, and so I was part of the proposal team with my SAP skills. They run SAP down in Jackson, and we won that audit, and so I started traveling up here. So I was literally doing Kansas City to Houston to Detroit and kind of did the circle for a while. About that time, my son was on the way, and there was an opportunity to propose on DTE Energy. And so, once again, the folks called me up and said, well, Dennis, why don't you do that? I said, listen, if you're going to make me work on DTE as well, I want to move to Detroit. So in the height of the auto recession in 2009, I told my wife, we're moving to Detroit. And she looked at me and said, you're nuts. And so with a 1-month-old, we moved up to Detroit in 2009. I've been here ever since. And so I spent all my time working in power and utilities, working on SAP clients. And so I work on CMS, I work on DTE, and First Energy is another utility over in the Cleveland area. I also lead up our global practice around SAP solutions for utilities that they've built. So I've actually coordinated with the UK, with Germany, with Australia, with South Africa, and all of our big lead SAP practices across the world on our utility solutions that we built for them. So in my spare time, I've got 2 kids. I got a 6-year-old and a 4-year-old. They keep me pretty busy. My son just started hockey, and my daughter's taking swim lessons and dance, and so pretty good time. So SAP's really been pivotal in kind of driving my career and giving me different options and outways throughout my career and giving me different paths. It's been pretty exciting. So I'll talk a little bit about that going through the presentation and what we're doing. This is hopefully going to be a bit interactive. So if you have questions throughout, just ask, raise your hand. We have a section for questions at the end as well. But we'll get to that. So if you have anything as we're going through, feel free to ask. So risk assurance solutions. Nobody in the world knows what this means. So what is risk assurance? And so basically, none of us do accounting work. Some of us are CPAs by trade, accounting majors. Some of us are MIS majors. If you think about it, and the way I describe risk assurance, companies these days are growing at a fast pace, and they're taking on additional risk to be able to grow. They're introducing disruptive technologies to help them get a competitive advantage against their competition. They're trying to attract new customers. They're trying to keep up with this next generation and what you demand from communications, from information, and from data that you want. And so when you think about risk assurance solutions, our job is to provide our clients with ways to mitigate risk so they can excel at growing their business, as well as provide comfort and trust to their customers, their employees, and their shareholders, whether they're in stakeholders actually, so whether it's constituents, regulators, or whoever it happens to be. And so we have a lot of services under risk assurance, which includes internal audit services, which we do a lot of SAP work for our internal audit clients. Third-party assurance, which means we go out and provide attestations to a third party to say that we've tested a certain environment and we think it's controlled, it's sound, it's working effectively. Process assurance, which is the area I happen to sit in, which is IT comfort for our external audit clients, as well as getting into industry solutions, as I mentioned, my power and utility focus. several of the folks up here are in our enterprise systems and risk and control. So when we go implement SAP for a living out at clients or upgrade them or help them introduce HANA or whatever it happens to be, these folks are thinking about risks and controls and how to appropriately implement those systems. And so we do a lot on both sides of the house, both on do quality assurance work to make sure those implementations go successfully, as well as actually help implement the system itself and make sure that it's going to be working effectively. We have a cybersecurity privacy practice like everybody else in the world today. It's amazing the risks that are out there from a cyber perspective, and so there's a lot of that apply to our ERP systems like SAP, as well as all the related technologies and the ecosystem that supports SAP. Risk compliance and data systems, that's really our analytics practice, and so we are investing a lot of money at the firm to build our analytics solution to think about how do you take all this data that you're putting into all these tables and these systems and all these records to make it more useful. And so there's a difference between metrics and analytics. Metrics, you kind of get data on a regular basis to help you run your business. Analytics helps give you data you don't currently have to help you make better decisions, quicker decisions, more informed decisions. And so we have a whole practice building out new tools and technologies to help our clients make better decisions. So that's really how I kind of characterize our analytics practice. And lastly, performance GRC. So it gets into enterprise risk management. It's thinking through all the solutions of where companies' strategies go in and how do you match strategy with risk and help mitigate risk in building out your strategy to be a successful company. Within that performance GRC, we also have our SAP GRC solution. So if you're thinking about solutions around the GRC tool around segregation of duties, security controls, and monitoring and those activities, and that piece of SAP sits in that solution as well. So there's a lot of things we do. You don't have to be a CPA to be in a risk assurance practice. About half our practice is. The other half have other certifications, things that kind of qualify, credential them to be successful. You don't have to have 150 hours of college credit like our accounting folks do. You do have to graduate. So that's a little bit about risk assurance is and what it does. And we'll kind of highlight that through kind of the course of the presentation and kind of what we do and hopefully bring that to life a little bit. We've talked about this a little bit. We serve a lot of clients. This clearly isn't all the clients we work with, but probably some familiar names you'll recognize. And so we work a lot with audit clients. We have non-audit clients, which basically means we're not doing the audit. We do a lot of consulting work with those clients. And we all work on a hybrid of all those. I think we all work on different clients up there. This is really representative of what we just service out of Greater Michigan. But we work on a lot of the household names you would see out there today. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Patricia to kind of kick us off on getting job interviewing skills and how you leverage your SAP experience and what you've got here at school as part of that process.
Yep, so special thanks goes to Marty who put this together. He did some background and research, if you will, by talking to different professors around what are the things that you guys would be interested in learning about and doing. So this presentation kind of walks you through that process. When you get into the door, what's the interviewing process? When you start on the job, what's some of the training, what's some of the background that you'll get? And then when you go on to your working engagements and planning, what are things and challenges that you'll face? And then from a continuous improvement perspective, what's the coaching and the real-time feedback that you're going to get along the way? So Michelle and I are going to kick off the section on the interviewing process. I'm excited about this because a lot of you are interviewing or currently interviewing or maybe interviewing now. So this will kind of help you walk through what that process is in terms of how do I prepare for the interview, what's my conduct during the interview, and then how do I follow up? And we'll take it from an interviewee perspective, which Michelle has interviewed just last year, so she's not too far removed at all from the process. Myself, I'll take it from the interviewer perspective. So that suits me just because I've done interviews since I was a manager, so there's a lot of interviews that I've done from interns to manager candidates. So with that, we'll go ahead and
Alright, so preparation's super important, but the first part of there is self-assess, know the employer, 2 rules, and then what to do. One I really think is super important is self-assess. You really need to know yourself before you can try and interview for a position because you're trying to sell yourself to the interviewer, so if you don't know yourself, they don't know you either. Know your strengths, know your weaknesses. Interests are super important. If the company that you're applying for doesn't really have the same interests as you, like for me, I really like volunteering and giving back to the community. I want to work for a company that is also interested in that. It's something you need to know. And experience, what experience do you have at the table? Maybe not necessarily internships, but prior jobs or on perspective, as opposed to the next person who's also trying to go for the same spot. Know the employer. This is definitely something I wish I had practiced or studied a little bit more before I went to an interviews. You want to know like the size of the company, what services do they have. You don't want to walk up there and just say like, oh, well, what do you do? What do you have available for me? Leading into opportunities. Go in there with a mission, with a plan. Know the company, know what you want. 2 rules: be prepared and be positive. If you start getting down on yourself or start feeling like maybe you can't do this, it's going to reflect. You're all really intelligent students. You went to CMU. You made the first really great choice of your career. So be positive about that. And be prepared. I wasn't really prepared today. So, if you're prepared, you feel better, you feel comfortable. So, that will help you with the interview process. And definitely one thing my mom always told me was, why you? You all are amazing. Keep telling yourself that. Tell yourself why would the employer want you, because no one else knows that better than yourself. So I knew I was a hard worker and I maybe don't understand everything the first time through, but you'll get it. I'm dedicated to understanding something. So that's why PwC should hire me, because I'm going to fight till I get the job done.
And from a preparation perspective, one thing that's important is your resume. That's something that, especially here at CMU, you guys take SAP courses. That's something that I wish I had in my undergrad. I started off blank slate. I took my basic ERP classes, but not anything like SAP. So that's something that's definitely should be highlighted, because that puts you a step above some of the Michigan grads and MSU grads. It's just your SAP courses. And then if you're planning on attending, or if you're planning on taking your Term 10, that's something to put on your resume as well. And that just highlights and drives the discussion, because SAP resources are something that we always look for, just because it is a really specialty ERP, and we do have a lot of clients that utilize SAP. The second thing on here I think to highlight is just questions. When you think about knowing your employer, think about the questions that you want to ask them about during your interview. So during the interview, you usually close with some sort of question, and that just shows that you're interested in that employer. So taking the due diligence and thinking about those questions really will service you well, because it just shows that, again, that you're interested in the job.
Question. Michelle, you worked at CVS,
I did.
right? Did you use any of the work experience from CVS on your resume or in the interview?
Oh, yeah. There's plenty of stories. Work experience is a really great place to find stories, because you work with a team, especially if you're in customer service in any way. You usually have a team of some sort, but you also interact with customers. And since PwC is a client-based industry or firm, you're going to have clients. You're going to have individuals that you're working with that aren't from the same company as you. So it's really good exposure.
So if my only job experience is working at McDonald's or a bartender at BW3s or something, that's still not throwaway experience if I'm framing it the right way.
Not at all. I know when I first came home, I always had stories from that day, be it with customers or be it with workers. And those are the stories that you can tell your interviewer, and it keeps it interesting. It's your personal experience. You basically just retell the story. It makes the interview, my interview was very conversational with Patricia. I interviewed with her. And it was when they throw you those curveball questions you weren't expecting, if you think back to a work day that sounds just like that description, it's a lot easier to come up with the answers, so you're not scrambling like, oh, I didn't prepare for that one, because you can't prepare for them all. Alright, follow up. Say thank you. Thank everyone. Thank the interviewer. Thank the recruiter. It just looks really good on you, and it's more contract time, so it keeps it in mind. And it's just that little extra thing that separates you from the person who maybe didn't say thank you. Show your continued interest. I know I personally kept in contact with the HR recruiter, Allison Muir, for CMU. So keep in contact with them. Let them know that you're still interested and follow what's going on. Notify the employer of your answer to their offer. So be yes or no. This isn't just for the company that you may be accepting the offer. Let the other companies know that maybe they extended an offer to you and you're not going to accept it. Just, it's just very professional. It's really good on your part. Just make sure you let people know what you're doing. And kind of falls into follow up with other offers you may have. Just stay in contact with people, don't just fall off the grid. It's really just really professional.
Yeah, I think Michelle alluded to it, but just be transparent in your conversations with your employer. We know that there are individuals that apply and go and look at other Big Four. So I think just understanding or just communicating that to your employer is important, so that we know, okay, if there's a delay in response, then we know what that's being attributed to.
Now, many know Dr. Mr. Tracy in here as well. We both have the same philosophy, Steve Tracy and I. If you say yes and accept an offer, you're off the table, you're off the dance floor. You don't keep looking and try to find another opportunity and then renege on that person. I'll never talk to you again, and I think Steve Tracy has the same attitude. So be professional at that stage of your life. When you accept that offer, all the other offers are off the table. You've accepted an offer and you've gone public with it. They know who said yes. They're proud of it. They're publicizing it. And then you come up in a week and say, well, I've taken another offer. I would hate you forever. And I would applaud you forever. I mean, not necessarily me as a faculty member here, but if that was done to me and I'm at PwC and somebody says yes, and then a week later says, no, I've taken a better offer, I at PwC would hate that person forever. And I won't forget it. I don't, so I just want people to know that.
It would cause us to question. It would cause us to question the judgment.
Yeah, we start playing around because it's really a fabulous thing going on here because we may get more than one offer, right? That might happen. Well, be honest that you've got an offer and then another company's talking to you, and you can say to PwC, I'd like to honor my interview that I've got coming up. I know I really appreciate your offer. I know you've made it before Career Day. You know I'm hitting Career Day and still sharing and meeting folks there, but I don't want to say yes yet. Please allow me that opportunity. Be honest, be upfront, because it's a special time for us to have when people are, in a unique position in their career. I mean, whoever thought I could have two offers? I didn't know if I could ever get a job.
And we understand that it's a big decision to make. I don't know if we'd hate you for life, but others might. We're not your feet.
I'm not like that.
I would tell you though, we really appreciate the big decision that it is. I would tell you that what sets us probably apart from a couple of the other firms is we typically give people longer to think through their offers than some of the other firms. Sometimes you have like a weekend. We don't do that. And so we're mindful of the big decision that this is, and we want you to respect that as well. So be transparent with us and say, hey, I have interviews coming up with this place. I want to do that first. We get that. And we want you to actually do that other interviews. We think we're better and just can't wait. And so I want you to experience that. I want you to see that. I want you to feel like you're making a good choice. And I mean, the reason I haven't went to another firm or I've stayed here is because I really like our culture and what the firm does. I like what we do to give back to community. I like what we've done with investments to grow the firm and our strategy. And we're looking to take our risk assurance practice from $1 billion to $2 billion in 5 years. And so if you think about the number of people we have to hire, we're going to have 250 more partners, which will double our partnership in 5 years. So if you think about the tremendous growth in the pyramid of all the people underneath that, there's huge opportunities going on in the firm. So I want you to talk to other people and feel like you're making an informed decision. That's fantastic, but just be transparent. And I think you'll find the firm very accommodating to work with.
I'm going to hop on that one too, because then, like what Michelle said, do your homework about the company first. It shouldn't be a Sunday surprise. Oh, now maybe the job offer, but look at the full package. Don't just look at the dollar figure. And I think that's what you're kind of alluding to also, that look at your whole package, not how much is your starting paycheck.
Yeah.
I have kind of a dangerous question.
We like dangerous questions.
That's
for Marty.
Because I know as a general rule of your sector, you are adverse to risk. But if I have two offers, and I've got an offer from Deloitte and an offer from you guys, would you expect me to come back and make a counter to you?
Yeah.
Say, can you match Deloitte?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
Because I tell my students, the offer is the offer, and don't push it. But maybe if they're applying to PwC, I can change that. I'm teasing.
Yeah.
But I'm curious though. I mean, it's a huge life decision. Is that something that I should come back and say, man, there's no clear winner here, can I negotiate? my
Nice.
Yeah. So I'll tell you the frank answer on that one is we don't change our starting numbers.
Okay.
And so we do tremendous benchmarking against the other firms. I know exactly what the starting salaries are for the other Big Four. And sometimes every year it changes slightly, so sometimes one's ahead of the other. I always tell you to be fully transparent. If you look over time, in a very short time horizon, we pay very, very competitively. And so I think I don't think these guys will probably shake their
They
heads.
let you know that too.
And so,
They do
yeah.
research.
We're very transparent about it because we know all the facts, and we all share the same study from Mercer from a comp perspective, so we're very transparent. We don't
I know your compensation is
good.
we
It's good.
smart,
It's
so.
good.
But as a general rule,
Yeah, we
guys, don't try to negotiate because they won't negotiate.
Yeah, you can ask, but we can't. We don't do that because it kind of fits the progression of the firm. And so when we're doing anywhere, corporate America usually gives raises around 3-4%. At the firm, it's 7, 6, 10. In the promotion year, it might be 15. There's decent bumps in compensation over your career, and those are small jumps. And so a lot for those to happen, we keep the starting salary where we keep it.
You know what Eve Wine's doing. You know what Roy's doing, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
I go to a dangerous school, but a sensitive one.
I like those too. Go for it. It's Marty's.
Which are related to international students. Do you sponsor international candidates?
We do sponsor international candidates. We do have a limit on how many of those we do in any given year, but we absolutely do.
Okay. Thank you.
And not everybody does that.
No, that's true. That is the reason I asked you.
That concludes this section. If you have any questions, are there any questions so far? I know we've been asking them along the way. We just thought we'd pause for a minute. That will kick it off to Alexis.
So Dennis has hit on this a lot already, but my favorite part about working at PwC is the endless opportunities. Dennis told us his story of how he started in Missouri, was in Washington, and now he's in Detroit. I'm sure he never imagined growing up he would end up in Detroit. And we had a market team meeting yesterday as well, where we got to hear stories of other people at the firm. And it's all kind of up to you. Sometimes there is things come up and they're great opportunities, and you kind of have to adjust. But we heard Craig, who will be on campus tomorrow, he decided he wanted to stay local, and he's always been local. And then there's people who have been all over the United States. So,
And Craig is a partner in the firm on the core assurance side.
So it's all kind of, you drive your own path. I have a really good friend who also goes to CMU, and she's starting in our tax practice. She did an internship this past winter, and she decided she wanted to move to LA after she graduated. So PwC accommodated her, and she's starting with PwC in LA in August. So it's all kind of up to you. And same with, we saw how many risk assurance opportunities that we have within the firm. If you let people know what you're interested in, PwC is really accommodating with what you want to do. And then along with the endless opportunities, there's endless learning. So you think Central's going to prepare you for everything you're going to need to know when you start your career. That's not true. People don't expect you to know everything. They expect you to know the textbook overview of everything. And then you start at PwC and you really get into those technical classes, and they really teach you what you need to know for what you're going to be doing. So when I started, I went to Risk Assurance 1 training and Risk Assurance 2 training. And my classes at CMU really prepared me for Risk Assurance 1 training when we went over the P2P process and the order to cash process, because we really hit those hard here. If you do the TERT 10 and in the 301 classes, you guys go over those. And 247?
647.
Yeah.
Well, 347.
Or 347.
We changed the number.
So you guys might think, why am I in this class? It's never going to do me any good. But when you get to those trainings, the people who had no SAP experience, I was heads and shoulders above what they knew in those areas. So I didn't have to focus that hard on that area, and I could focus on other areas that I needed to improve on. So that was when I started. It was Risk Assurance 1 and Risk Assurance 2, but we just had a restructuring, and Marty went to the training for our SAP group is now more specialized, where they go to an ESRC training where you get the overview of the firm and everything, and then you really focus on SAP, and then the Oracle people really focus on Oracle. So the trainings are different for whichever path you want to take. And then every year when the SAP group, we have SAP University, which is an amazing time. I actually started in January and I got to go in February and got to meet partners, directors, managers from all over the United States in our practice. And it was great networking and a lot of fun. And then again, we really hit on those business processes, which my CMU experience really helps you to understand that. And then when you do get to those client sites and you are working really in depth, right now I'm in the finance process. So those classes and these trainings that we put people through really help when you do get to those clients, so you're not like, oh my God, what did they just give me? But they don't expect you to know everything right off the bat. And then it's really encouraged that you take an extra training throughout the year as well. So this summer I had the opportunity to go to, we have a proprietary tool that does segregation of duties and access controls testing for SAP. So that was a week long, and this was in Detroit, but a lot of the trainings you get to travel to also, which are a lot of fun. I was in Tampa and Houston, Fort Worth, and Houston twice actually, 2 trainings on there. But so it's a great networking event and continuous learning. So yeah, really let people know what you want to do, and the opportunities are literally limitless.
And I will say, from a training perspective too, I mean, your training will be suited, like Alexis said, based on what group you're in, but it'll also be tailored to where you are within the firm. For example, as you move up through the firm, as you move up to like the senior associate level, for instance, you'll have more softer training. How do I coach people? How do I lead teams? How do I deal with difficult client situations? Those are trainings that you can expect to do, but that does follow you throughout the course of your career.
The other thing you'll experience that doesn't exist today, that'll actually be there by the time you would actually be enrolled in the firm, is we're actually overhauling our whole risk assurance curriculum to create this new concept of a risk assurance professional. And it's built up of your technology acumen, your business acumen, and analytical skills as well. And so what we're actually going to be doing is rebooting the entire program that all of those folks have been through just recently. And it's going to actually be a core curriculum now where you're going to learn your SAP technology. You're going to learn about how to do data analytics and how to read analytics. You're also going to learn about business process fundamentals and how business processes work in organizations and how technology and analytics interact with those. But the whole concept that we want to make our associates be really balanced professionals that can participate and involved in all aspects of how we serve our clients. You may not become a specialist in all those, but you become at least conversant with your clients and be knowledgeable to have those conversations with your clients. So that'll actually be in place by the time you're actually at the firm. It's a very significant investment we're making to overhaul that curriculum and kind of rebrand that whole experience of those initial learnings. And that curriculum will then continue. We're still going to have SAP University and Oracle University and all those other programs as you advance through the firm, but those are all going to be based on the foundation of that risk assurance professional. So it's some pretty exciting stuff we're going to do as we kind of look to build out our workforce over the next 5 years with the growth we're expecting.
And with that, I'm going to pass it on to Marty.
It's snatching.
It's hard.
Practice that one.
It's hard for me to hide. I try some so I really don't have a slide to go with this, so I'm going to leave this one up here for a little while while I talk. But I was sitting where you were last year, and I sat through a bunch of these presentations and lectures, and it gets redundant, and we listen to people talk a lot. And so what I really wanted to bring was something that you wanted to hear. And so we got together as a team and we talked about it. We approached some of the professors and we said, hey, what are your students interested in hearing? What are you interested in hearing? And this is really what we came up with. And so part of this section is really going to be, Denise brought some great feedback to us about, we really want to hear, hopefully I didn't butcher it too much, but
I'll let you know.
So we really want to hear that transition. How do you go from school to the workplace, and how do you prepare for that, and then how does your employer prepare you to bring value, in our case, to bring value to our clients? And so one of the things I loved, we had a call on this yesterday, and Dennis said, we don't hire anyone that we don't expect. We don't hire. Interesting questions I got last week when I was here was Steve Tracy, after seeing the slide, asked, you know, how did Central prepare you for this? You know, looking at those 5 aspects, how has Central helped you with that? And so when I actually sat down and thought about it, I had a conversation with my career coach about a month ago now when I first started. And we honestly, based on what we did with training and all that, I feel comfortable right now. By no means does that mean I'm an expert, and we're going to keep learning, but coming out of the classes, coming out of the Turk 10, I felt comfortable with the business processes, the things we were doing for training. So for me, technical capabilities is lower on my list. You know, if I had to rank them, I'm going relationships, whole leadership, and then I'm going to throw technical capabilities down there a little farther because I've been prepared for it. But the flip side of that is you're only prepared for it if you put in the effort to actually do something with it. So if you decide, you know, the Turk 10's too hard, I'm not going to do it, you're missing out on a great opportunity. If you decide, well, I'm not going to go to class for 2 weeks, or I'm not going to go to class this week, or I'm not going to study for that test, whatever it is. And whatever that decision you make is going to come back later down the road. And you don't think about it now because you think, well, the working world's, you know, a long ways away. Well, I'm now in it, and I can tell you that there were some things that I did really well in school that I'm glad I did, and there were some things I thought, man, I really could have done that a lot better. And so I really encourage you to take the opportunities that Central has and utilize them to the best of your ability.
The other thing that comes with this model is our new philosophy around real-time feedback. And I would tell you that we're changing the culture of the firm. That, you know, if you come out of a meeting, and I was meeting with, let's say, Patricia and Michelle, and something didn't go so well, you know, in the meeting, we debrief immediately and kind of talk about that and share those experiences and talk about that as opposed to waiting to do a snapshot or any kind of feedback. And so the culture of the firm is changing to give this real-time feedback. It takes time out of everyone's day. I allocate time every day to make sure I'm giving real-time feedback to people. But it's also a 360, so I'm also expecting folks to give me real-time feedback as well. And so it's a cultural change we started last year at the firm that we're embedding into our culture. It's not completely embedded, we're still learning. We're re-emphasizing it in every single team meeting we have, every single market meeting we have, just to the importance of real-time feedback. It comes out in our national emails, you guys have been bombarded with it. But it's really changing the game in how we give feedback to people so that you're constantly learning, you're constantly developing, and not just something you do a couple of times a year. So we're in hope that we can make, you know, better professionals that are more grounded, that are more aware, self-aware of themselves as part of the process as well.
I would say a huge part of my transition, Dennis touched on it, we have a buddy, a coach, and a relationship partner. So, Nick's my buddy. But from day one, you have exposure at so many levels of the firm because you have a partner that's going to be there for you, and a coach who's manager level, my coach is a director, and then a buddy who's at your same exact level who literally did this, what you're going through a few months earlier or a year earlier, so they're there for all, like, what you think might be a really dumb question, you have them there to ask all that, and then at every level you have someone there for you from day one throughout your career with PwC. We already talked about real-time development? Career coach?
Yeah, I think the slides at this point are we've kind of touched on everything.
Yeah.
So what are the hard questions you have for Marty?
I love answering questions.
Denise, you gotta throw it out there.
I love talking.
I'm working on it.
What surprised you?
Coming to the firm? Well, for me, you know, I think back to when I started my internship. I was a little overwhelmed with what I thought because it was really my first. I mean, I worked, you know, retail jobs and things like that, but this was my first real world opportunity, and I was nervous about it. I was nervous during the interviews, and I was nervous starting. And I talked to my relationship partner. We were at an event the week before I started my internship, and he says, you know, how are you feeling? Are you ready for it? And he told me, honestly, I'm a little nervous about it. I don't know if I know what I got into. And he said, we all make mistakes. I made one earlier today that, yes, it's going to cost us some time. It may cost us some money, but it's not the end of the world. And we're going to learn from it and move on. But part of the thing is you have to learn from it. Because we can say we learn from an experience, but if we don't apply that to the next one, we really haven't learned anything. So there was a learning curve for me in, yes, technical capabilities, yes, the way PwC did it, but also just lifestyle in general. How do I transition to, now I'm working a 40-plus hour work week. Now I'm working with people who are my level and much, much higher. How do I work with an associate? How do I work with a partner? And how does that change along the way? And how do I work to develop myself? And that was the buddy and career coach were absolutely huge in how I developed throughout the internship and how I develop now. Because when I got there, like I said, I spoke with the partner, but you don't want to take the, how do I send out an email and Lotus Notes to the partner? Because he's got some other things on his plate that he's worrying about. So I had my buddy there who was, as stupid a question as I thought it was, she would always make me feel like she had the same question. She'd tell me she did, but I don't think she really did. But it made me feel better about it. And then my career coach, when I was doing my internship, I thought, I was thinking to myself, is this where I want to be for the next however many years I'm working? Which I don't know, how many years do people work? 40 now? 30, 40, 45? We'll see, it varies.
Forever.
Right, forever. So where do I want to be, 5 years from now? Where do I want to be 10 years from now? And is this the place for me? And my career coach, this was all coming out, the PwC professional area was all coming out when I was starting my internship. And for me, it was really, they're going to invest the time in me for me to develop if I'm willing to put in that effort as well. And it's not just me, it's me and my buddy and my career coach and my partner and however many people you meet along the way. I met some people during my internship that, no, I'm not affiliated with them officially anymore, in the sense of I'm not working on a project with them, or the girl who's no longer my buddy, I have a new buddy now, but I still keep in contact with them as unofficial mentors or career coaches or something like that. So the unexpected part was there's a lot of differences. There's a huge transition that I thought was going to be easy that maybe wasn't so easy. But along the way, I was coached the entire way. So I was taught what I needed to know. I was told what I needed to hear for me to be comfortable with what I was doing. And then I was helped with planning for the future. How do I get from where I am right now as an associate up to the next level or to the next phase of my career?
I would say what surprised me the most is I actually did have a couple of other offers, and what surprised me the most when I chose PwC is the amount of responsibility they give you from day one. One of my other offers was, okay, you get to start by approving tickets in the system. So if you think this is an issue, you can approve it. So I'm going to sit at a desk and approve tickets all day long. Well, here, first project I'm on, they're like, okay, here's a list of all those functions and a list of the accesses, and go ahead and map these, and we need this by the end of the day, and we're going to review it obviously before, but they give you real work that makes a difference, and you're helping these clients. So that was one thing that really surprised me.
That one.
Any other questions?
So, can you please share your experience regarding the final round of interview?
The final
round of interviews, yeah.
So we have the interviews on campus that take place, and that's what, half hour, an hour?
Half an hour, I think. Yep.
Yeah, and then on that we really focus on the whole leadership aspect of our PwC professional. Let me get that right. And then if they do invite you back for a second interview, you come to our office, and it's actually a really fun event. They put you up in a hotel for a night, and they take you out to Angelina's in Detroit, which is a delicious Italian restaurant.
Well,
And then
it changes sometimes. It's not always there.
it really doesn't. And then
Mark at McDonald's.
Yeah.
I mean, apparently I got jet. So I
The size of you.
But then, yeah, so they take you to a dinner, and they show you Detroit, which some people that go to CMU have never been to Detroit before. Like my vision of Detroit before PwC was, okay, I've been to a few Red Wings games and Tigers games, and that's about it. So they give you a tour of Detroit. I got to go to the Opera House, and then they really kind of get you like a little bit at ease for the next day. Like you have a buddy throughout this whole process, so you're getting comfortable asking them questions about what it's going to be like and getting to know on a more personal basis, other than just tell me about a time when. And it really makes it the next day less stressful. So they put you up in a hotel that night, and then the next morning you have 3 interviews with different people of different levels in the firm. And then you also do, like Michelle said, she was really passionate about giving back, and they like to do events like that too that show other sides of the firm other than just tell me about yourself and that kind of stuff. So, and then you do a fun lunch after that as well, and you get a buddy also then to kind of debrief and get to know them as well.
And that interview process is really meant to showcase PwC, showcase downtown Detroit, but it also showcase the different levels that we have. So not only have you meet with like the partners, managers, directors, whom you're going to be interviewing with, but it really puts you at that staff level. So the pre-night that Alexis talks about, you're paired with a buddy, and that buddy's either at the senior associate or associate level, and that's where you can ask some of those candid questions around like, what do you do? What do you do on a daily basis? What can I expect during the interview process? And then also the second day is where you'll have lunch with you'll have lunch with the associates and senior associates. So it's really meant to showcase PwC, but also get you familiar with the culture and the people that you'll be working with.
Actually, I remember from when I went through the interview, when you're interviewing on campus, you have a greeter as well, and he was up here with me last week, and then the person who was my buddy during the day, or the pre-night, I work with him almost daily, so it kind of all comes full circle when you have those contacts already when you do start. So those are just more networks that you have when you're first coming in and you feel really overwhelmed in a new job with all these people.
So I'd say one thing, if you take anything from the presentation today, take some of these ideas in the sense that, for us, the way we structure it is the on-campus interviews focus on whole leadership. The office interviews are focused on those other 4 outer rings. But no matter who you're interviewing with, whether it's us or someone completely different, if you don't think they're looking for those types of things, I'm going to go out on a limb and say you're probably wrong. If you don't think someone wants leadership or someone that has good technical capabilities or is able to build relationships, you're probably wrong. So use this when you're preparing for your internships or interviews rather. Earlier when we talked about interviewing, do a self-assessment. Where do I stand on these areas? Wow, what are my strengths and weaknesses in whole leadership? What do I want to work on? If I was asked, how do I display my business acumen? Do I have an example for that? What is that? So I think, if there's really anything you take from the presentation today, this could be really helpful. And I'm really glad and proud to be a part of PwC that they're at the forefront of doing something like this with real-time feedback.
Marty actually has this as his desktop background. He's so passionate.
What else? Any other questions out there?
Just one minute. What's the ratio of like male and female on your individual teams and that kind of thing?
We talked about this earlier. It's kind of like the IS major. There's a lot of males, but we're growing in females, and we have a really cool initiative called He for She, which is trying to really promote females and developing and getting to those higher levels. So that's really cool. Something that I think PwC does that I don't think a lot of other people do. So we're trying to get there.
Yeah, because it's something that we're talking about within the IS department as well. Is how do we get more females engaged? How do we do these kinds of things? And obviously,
Have them talk to me.
we have one.
I am the representative.
Which is, and you kind of think about, okay, I feel like it's a trend. If it's not, it should be. So at some point in time, if we can get this rolling, we'll probably actually come back to you guys and see if you can go to try to get more girls in the IS program. They're still young. So young female professionals. But I was just wondering if as an organization, is that something that you look at and think about, or is workforce planning, workforce planning?
So I would say we want to hire the best person for the job, and but we do have a very good focus on making sure that we have a diverse profile at our firm, both in ethnicity, men and women. We want to make sure that we don't all come from the same background. We all think alike, and it doesn't make us grow as a firm. So I would tell you that it's something we definitely consider and take to heart, but we don't obviously force ratios or anything to work like that. I would tell you though, some of the programs we have and the networking we have for minority circles, for women's circles, for programs, for mother programs like Patricia's, some of the things that the firm offers, we try to offer a diverse set of programs that help support people's backgrounds, their religion, other things that they'll need through life, and not just so when we think about hiring professionals. So if you have questions about that or want to know what we do, we have a lot of that on our website. But talk to the people, talk to us or talk to others. We're happy to personally talk to you about what those are and how those could apply to you.
And I think human capital too, our human resources department looks at too the engagements in terms of ratio between male and female, because I know we've got warnings too about too many males on our engagements, and so we try to strike a balance as well. There are things that monitor that.
For the record, she's only outnumbered 3-2, so don't let her pull the guilt trip.
I was really excited when we saw a lot of females. Our list this year is balanced. So that's why we were talking about it earlier today. Because that's one of our new meetings.
They're smart.
Wow. That's why one of the females is the director and we all work under her.
We had actually our biggest number of women admitted to the partnership this year that we've ever had in the history of the firm. So I would also tell you that there's a lot of things going on that way, both in reporting to see the investments of retaining people and having them progress through the firm is making its way up into the partnerships.
And there's support programs too for motherhood as well, and I think that helps promote some of the ratios. I read a program around taking almost like a leave of absence, but still being able to continue with having your computer and trainings and whatnot. So that kind of helps support a young mom taking a leave of absence, taking care of the young child, etc.
What other questions? Anything else out there?
On what basis do you recruit people, like specific module or SAP?
No, so we're not specifically looking for modules. It's really just your background, your talent, and just your raw basic skill set. So, I joke around, we're not looking to hire left-handed softball pitchers, but it's all about just getting people who have broad base of technology, who have the ability to learn. We've got a really good foundation because, candidly, what you learn in college is a good foundation. It's 5% of what you're going to need in the firm. And so it's a great foundation to launch your career, and the ability to learn, to pick up terms, to be experienced is really what you're going to do. There's not a single day in my career that I haven't learned something new, whether it's technology related, it's industry related, company related, methodology related, whatever it happens to be. There's not a single day that I've ever worked that I haven't learned something. And so if you can do that, you'll be very successful. So coming in with the mindset that you have to continue to learn to keep up and bring relevant ideas to your clients is what's so important about what we do. Yes.
Hi, there is a lot of air in SAP about SAP HANA, and I'm working a small project with my professor in the department. So, do you think PwC use SAP HANA or implementing the technology?
Yeah, so we have got into HANA. I think a couple of our clients, like most SAP products, a lot of our companies don't want to implement version 1 or 2 because they're usually not very good. And so it usually takes a couple of versions to work out the bugs. There are those clients that are actually emerging and getting out there. I would tell you from a implementation perspective, the firms implemented HANA at probably 50 to 100 clients, between 50 and 100 clients right now. There's a lot of large Fortune 500 companies are now beginning projects to kind of move to HANA. I think the challenge has been SAP's response to HANA was to put it in to fix problems. And so we said that's not a good practice, right? If your system's not working a certain way, and the answer, let's throw it in HANA to work better, we didn't fix the problem. And so what we try to do to our clients is figure out what the problem is and fix that solution. Now, if we wanted to be able to do quicker real-time processing, better in-memory running of reports and analytics, and that's what HANA's for, and that's what that platform's for. A lot of our clients have implemented their BI environment because of the nature of pulling reports and wanting data to run quicker, more complex queries in a short period of time. We're starting to see people implement it now on transaction processing as well, to be able to run consumers' energy, to be able to run call center queries quicker, to quantify your power, to have a in a retail company to be able to run queries on your inventory quicker. So we're starting to see it progress into the area of real-time transaction processing, but it's really just getting there. So yes, we've implemented a lot. We actually just built out on the risk side controls element of how do you control HANA. Because you've got right about your database layer, and now you have all that in SAP currently. And so what are the risk considerations around segregation of duties, and what you need to move now to your ERP environment that uses it separately in a database environment? How does that change the risk scenario? And so we built that out, and we're applying that to our clients this year. I think that experience is definitely relevant, and I think that, it's, while things are different from the firm in the centuries, there's a lot of basis in understanding the culture is the same, and so that definitely helps you.
I think we originally planned to go an hour and we kind of blew that away, but I think
Who
there.
taught
We started.
So I like to talk a lot, but no, I think there were some really good questions. I hope everyone found something relevant in the presentation for them. So at least someone, right? So thanks, guys.
I'll show your appreciation. Opportunity to visit